It's the Week 6 edition of the Coach's Corner here on Leominster TV. Nope, that's not Leominster High School head coach Dave Palazzi. Still 2 weeks in a row, you've got Bill Thomas sitting in for Leominster High School head coach Dave Palazzi. Bill Thomas, of course, of the K-Zone, WPKZ, and Leominster TV, our color commentator. Bill, good to have you. Still liking the shirt. It's still a winner.
You're going to get me
It's a win.
A whole new wardrobe of just Blue Devil shirts.
Kate's back in the control room wearing hers as well and cursing at me generally about my ability to be on time. But other than that, here we go. It's Leominster and Wachusett for Week 6 action out at Doyle Field. And of course, a lot of excitement here as we get set for that game. And a game where obviously you have two teams that have had very different seasons to this point in time. A Wachusett team that has seen quite a bit of success, a Leominster team that struggled. What do you do with this Wachusett team who, quite frankly, I mean, they run the ball. They run it, and they run it again. Just, it's a question of, as Coach Palazzi says, crisscross applesauce. Who's got the football?
I like that. Well, it's going to be student body right, student body left, and student body up the middle because they run the ball very effectively. And, other than that first week against Doherty, which they lost 14-7, they've been putting up points. Even in the St. John's loss, 38-31, they had a 31-14 lead going into the fourth quarter and couldn't stop St. John's. St. John's put up 24 straight points 2 weeks ago against them to hang that loss on them. But I think it's Wachusett's got a very formidable running attack. And the Blue Devils defense is going to be hard-pressed to stop it. And when they do have to throw the ball, they got a quarterback that has only thrown the ball 27, 28 times, but he's got half a dozen completions. He's not all that proficient. He's got 8 completions. 4 of them have gone for TDs. But they have a running attack that is kind of hard to believe. When it comes to breakaway runners, usually you think a tailback is going to break that 40, 50, 60 yarder.
Yep.
I was looking at some notes of their first 5 games. They have broken 5 TDs of 52 yards or longer, not just by one player, 3 different players. 2 players have 2 of those, and 1 player has a 56-yarder to go in there. So it's not just one tailback, and they're going to mix and match. They're going to sub. They might have all 3 of those players out there at the same time. Like you say, crisscross applesauce. Try to guess which one's going to have the ball in any given play.
Yeah, without a question. And of course, one of the things you've seen with Wachusett year in and year out, Bill Thomas, is you're absolutely right. All 3 of those players will be out on the field together at any one point in time because you're going to have 2 wing backs and you're going to have a fullback in there in that wing T formation. Whether they line them all up straight across, whether they put one off the end, there will be 1 receiver, a tight end, and then everybody else is going to be a running back, including a quarterback that can usually run the football as well. So it's really a question of, as they pack it in tight, can you track the person that ultimately has the football? And that, of course, is going to be a challenge. I agree with you. But I think it's a challenge that this year, in this 2018 season, the Leominster defense has handled well. They know how to work together. They turn those plays to the inside, and they fill the gaps where they can. And if you happen to drop back to pass and you don't keep track of all the guys up front, look out, you might just have Kyle Philbin in your ear hole when you wake up.
Well, I think what we've seen over the first half of the season here is the run defense has been very good. Led by a nice curl linebackers, Adam Couch doing a good job on his edge, and who's ever, Core, who's ever out on the other edge, turning plays in. So it's not that they've struggled against the running game; it's the passing game that they've struggled against, and some inexperience at DB and at safety, and we've seen when offensive teams flood one side of the field, they tend to run players out of the zone, and nobody's hanging around to see who's coming in behind them, and they got burned a number of times against Shrewsbury with those screens out into the flat and with no coverage out there. So the Mountaineers don't throw the ball all that much, but when they do, they've been efficient. When they've had to, we'll just have to see how the Blue Devils can force them into something maybe that they're not comfortable doing.
And that will be the question. And then, of course, on the offensive side of the ball for Leominster, it's a question of can you produce points against what is always a very tough, tightly packed Wachusett defense. They're going to play that 4-4 coverage, or they'll play a little 5-3. At best, you get like a 4-3 up front. There's going to be a lot of bodies in that box between the tackles, which means running the ball up the middle is going to be difficult. How else can you get the ball into your playmakers' hands? How else can you get the ball to Marchand? How else can you get the ball to Adam Couch? And I think we've seen some of that. It kind of hinted at a little bit. Obviously, Del Judas from the tight end spot as well, and that's going to be leaking players out and throwing balls 4 and 5 yards down the field and getting the ball to them in the second level of the defense and then letting them move their way down the field.
Yeah, and I think the way to do that is play to your strength. Use your rushing game to set up the passing game. We know they work hand in hand. Very rarely does one not work unless the other one's having some impact. And I really think the Blue Devils need to flow the game through their rushing game at this point of the season. 3 yards in a cloud of dust is not pretty. That's not what we like to see around here. It's downfield vertical, and we all know that, but sometimes you got to play to your strengths, and I think the rushing game is the strength of the Blue Devils right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that indeed. So that is Week 6 action. It's Wachusett and Leominster back at Doyle Field for the Blue Devils, and it's the first home game of October. And what does that mean? That means we at the K-Zone and at Leominster TV sponsor our Breast Cancer Awareness Month broadcast. We'll be splashing a little bit of pink in with our outfits and also bringing you some public service announcements about the importance of getting screened and keeping track, obviously, of any of those situations along the way. So certainly, Breast Cancer Awareness broadcast, that's coming up again with this one on Friday night, October the 12th at Doyle Field. And of course, you have the opportunity to be a part of that one as well. And we dare you, challenge you to splash a little pink in with your royal blue in support of breast cancer awareness and survivors as well. Players will be sporting it as well as they will everywhere else in the month of October. So we'll challenge you to do that as well. Broadcast information for this Week 6 action, the K-Zone and Leominster TV on this one. AM 1280 and 105.3 FM with a live stream at WPKZ.net and a live look-in back on Facebook at 20 minutes past 6. Of course, all that is pending playoff baseball, so stay tuned to Facebook Live and Facebook for more information on that. Leominster TV, they're with us no matter what. They will lead our coverage with Verizon, Fios, and of course Comcast Xfinity service, and replays available out on YouTube as well, and a play-by-play on Facebook Live beginning at 7 o'clock. 20 games for 20 years, celebrating our 20 years of television coverage here at Leominster TV, and here the 20 games continue into the 04 and 05 season. So 2005 will come up tomorrow night, October the 9th. It's Leominster and Wachusett for that one. And then, of course, Leominster and Brockton on Thursday. That's from 2004, and that is October the 11th. So 6:30 for all of our premieres of 20/4/20. So certainly going to want to tune in for that as we continue to go farther and farther back. It's been great getting to see all the feedback from people over all the years that are starting to see some of their games come back. Some of them are still kicking themselves for plays that got made back then.
I can't believe I did that.
Nothing you can do about it, right?
I wish I made that tackle.
Trust me, when you see Todd circa 99, 2000, and 2001, I'm still kicking myself for some of those things. Hairdo, and I can't imagine why Kate didn't pay attention to me in high school. As you take a look at
persistent.
that. Persistent is the key on that
and
one.
It paid off.
We want to, without a doubt, we want to talk a little bit about the Leominster High School Hall of Fame, the Leominster High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Their big event coming up on Saturday, October the 13th. You can get in touch with Frank Stefanidis and Rich Barnaby for tickets. That event being held at the Leominster Lodge of Elks on Saturday, October the 13th. And again, timing on that, 5 o'clock for cocktail hour. Dinner is at 6, and the induction ceremony for the Leominster High School Athletic Hall of Fame 2018 class, that begins at 7 o'clock on the 13th of October. That's Saturday night at the Leominster Lodge of Elks. Frank Stefanidis and Rich Barnaby have your tickets for that event. Rich Barnaby at leominsterschools.org for more information on that. So looking forward to that event coming up. Some great inductees in here that we'll be seeing in the months to come as part of our 20 games for 20 years expansion, which is coming in the spring. So stay tuned for that as well as we turn the calendar to 2019 as well. Now, before we let Coach Palazzi go, just about a week or so ago now, we had him diagram up some plays. We brought out the old whiteboard and the markers, and you saw in last week's broadcast just how do you defend the difference between a Wachusett and a Doherty. Well, this week we put him at the board. We challenged him with this. We said, all right, Coach P, all we keep hearing about in television broadcasts, whether it's the pros or whether it is at the college level, is the RPO, the RPO, the RPO. Everybody on their pregame show, everybody on their postgame show, and in their broadcast wants to show us what is this RPO? What is this run-pass option? So I put Coach Palazzi to the test. Coach, teach us the RPO. It's time for our first edition of Chalk Talk here with Leominster High School head coach Dave Palazzi. And Coach, I've always wanted to put you on a whiteboard and just let you go to town. So here comes your opportunity. I want to take a look at the run pass option. The run pass option right now, it is like the in thing in football. Everybody's talking about it. It's on every pregame show. They want to diagram it up both in the NFL and in college as well. The RPO, it's the thing to do right now in football.
That's right. So, a lot of teams will run the run pass option. So I can just draw up a few things.
Yeah.
I mean, they watch the NFL. You can see, I think Cam Newton does a lot of this, Deshaun Watson. So if you're just thinking from an offensive perspective, right here you could do it a few ways. Some teams can line up. That would be trips to the right.
Yep.
Offense would obviously be going this way. And then you'd have your running back, your quarterback, and your tailback behind. So I'll just draw up a basic 4-3 defense here. How they would defend something like this. So then out of the 3 linebackers, they'd have their backer there, and the free safety, strong safety, corner, and then the other backer. Some teams may play number 2.
Okay.
So when we're talking about receivers from a defense perspective, that's a number 1 receiver. Number 2 would be the next guy in. Number 3 would be the third guy in.
Okay.
So where you want to put this backer, okay, you can put him here. So now when you're running the run pass option, now you could run a basic zone play, okay, whereas you'd want to key this guy.
Okay.
So for example, if we were going to go here and just run an inside zone play, we'd have these 2 guys here with the center would obviously be spying this guy in case he came. Okay, and then we're just stepping here and everybody's man-to-man, and then we'll run and we'll look for the cutback lane here, straight, or here. In a run-pass option, this guy is not blocked, so what a lot of teams may do, they may send him here, and they may fill this guy in here. So if the Mike backer comes up on the run fake, just pull the ball out, and the quarterback throws the ball there.
And in theory, with him coming in, this guy should be open over the middle.
So rather than block him, we're just seeing if he vacates the premises, and then we just hit the guy over the middle.
Okay.
A lot of teams can do with this same alignment. If you want to now just shift the running back over to here, so to speak, and run your zone this way, now you can key this guy and just run a slant. And that was all over the NFL this weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you saw this backside slant just coming across here, and this backer's either going to come flying up to defend the run. So the basic concept of the run-pass option, which is tough because now these linemen, they can't get downfield. So how do they know when it's a run or a pass? I think a lot of the NFL, you have 3 hours of practice a day. Colleges, in high school, you can do it, but if you get your lineman downfield and you throw the ball, then you're going to have a flag for the lineman downfield. So, we've done this in the past. We haven't done too much of it this year, but we'll call a specific number, like a 60 series would be, that the lineman would know, if it's 62 dive option right, that it could be a pass as well. So we'll just the
ultimate responsibility to the quarterback to know what's going on with whoever you're keying on.
Yeah, and you have to pull the ball, and it takes practice, and not only do you have to read it, but then you have to physically make the throw, and you have to be on the same page, and the lineman not downfield. So you really have to commit to these types of concepts. I think a lot of teams have to. You can use it in specific games here and there, but you really have to work at it, because now you're relying on your lineman not to go downfield, and you're relying on a good fake, or you give him the ball and he runs. But a lot of teams are doing it. We did a lot of this at the end of the year last year. I think when Del Judas got hurt in Thanksgiving, that was actually a run-pass option. It was wide open. We just overthrew him a little bit, but there was no one. This backer had come, and there was no one in the middle of the field, and we overthrew him. So, that's just one of those things.
Gives you plenty of options. Start moving the field around, keep the defense guessing.
Exactly. So it's just a simple concept. I mean, you can get into different route runnings. I think, there's another play where you can run where you can key this guy, and you just have this receiver hook up here, and he runs your bubble, and he runs off. So now you just key this linebacker. If you're running a speed sweep this way and you want the quarterback to focus on him, if he comes up, pull the ball and throw it to him.
Wow.
and then you have him. So there's a lot going on.
I was going to say, bottom line, there's a lot going on, and that's your run pass option. And this week's Chalk Talk with Leominster High School head coach Dave Palazzi. I'm having so much fun with those segments, watching coach. You give him a marker and a whiteboard and just let him go to town. You want to see some real fun, we got to put him up there and let him diagram out a schedule for Central Mass football or basketball for that matter. It is so much fun watching him go to town. Bill Thomas, it's great to see somebody who's passionate about football, and even though he's not specifically addressing, although we did make some connections of how it has happened when Leominster's plays in the years past, it's just fun to see somebody passionate about their job and go to town and let him diagram it out.
I mean, you're talking about 40 years of passion. I mean, it's not like he just decided he wanted to be, was a school teacher and wanted to become a coach, you know, to pick up an extra $5,000 a year. You know, Coach Palazzi lives, breathes, and he's, you know, you cut him, is probably going to bleed blue. You know, going back to the 80s and before, Pop Warner, whatever, and, you know, he's been a Blue Devil at heart, and he coaches that way, he conducts himself that way, and we see it game in and game out. And I'm sure you've seen it, you know, in the school environment, because you've been around him in those elements. But it's a great person, great coach, but very entertaining.
Entertaining without a doubt. They give the man a marker, and the man is a genius. Well, it is Monday night, October the 8th, and so that is, let's see, my calculations tell me, Bill Thomas, that's 2 years. It's my second anniversary. So happy anniversary, sweetheart, as we make it that far along, and she's back in the control room going, this is how you choose to kill time? Yes, that is how I choose to fill our time. It's Leominster and Wachusett, week 6 of action, coming up on Friday night here on Leominster TV and also on the K-Zone. 2 weeks of Coach Palazzi gone with Bill Thomas in. We appreciate it, Bill Thomas.
Thank you.
You're filling the spot. Coach Palazzi is back on Monday night, October the 15th, in this chair, answering your questions and more. So it should be a lot of fun with that. Maybe we'll get him back at the board as well. For Kate Robbins and Bill Thomas, I am Todd Robbins, saying thank you so very much for joining us on this week's edition of the Coach's Corner. And until next week, so long, everybody.